Hi guys, this is Gretchen, the Verdant Crafter, and today I'm going to be creating 10 cards, 1 kit using the Simon Says Stamp Hello Summer Kit. This kit came out for July 2017. Okay, we're going to jump right into our first card. This card was a lot of fun to make. I'm going to use some of the Echo Park Summer Dreams paper and create a background. And I'm also going to use a scrap from the boho effect paper. You're going to see that I played around with it a little to see if I wanted to have more of the orange showing or more of the blue showing. I'm using my VersaFine ink to stamp up the Sending a Summer Hello stamp. I'm just testing it, and now here we go. I heat set it off screen because this is a pigment ink. And I'm using my medium tip Nuvo glue pen to glue down a bikini cut from this awesome flamingo paper. I just love it. I'm going to use my tape runner to adhere it to the boho effect paper and trim it down so it's 5 1/4 inches long. I'm also going to use the Derice miniature or little foam strips. These are really sticky, and I actually found through using them that it was easier to peel off the back in paper and then peel them sideways. This seemed to keep the top on. These were really sticky. I mean, seriously sticky. I think they're comparable to the Stampin' Up foam tape or foam stickers. They're not as thick, and they are shorter, obviously, and a lot stickier. I love this card. So I'm just going to stamp the envelope, and it's going to say time to relax, and I'm going to add in some of the little bird silhouettes. It's going to be so cute. Again, I'm using VersaFine. I just want to make sure that this ink stays and doesn't move around. Okay, next on to our second card. I really like this paper. It's a gradient from pink to orange, or pink to red to orange to yellow to green to teal, and it has all kinds of little fun sayings. Shine, hashtag BFF, fun, LOL, sweet, hello, I love summer, hashtag girls rule, soak up, it's got a sun. And I'm just going to use some leftover paper and say time to relax. I'm going to trim it down. I think it's a little bit too long, and I want it to be even on each side. And I'm going to add a little fishtail on the end. I need to replace the blade on my trimmer. So I'm just trimming off some of that hairy edge that it's getting. And I'm using the Derice foam strips again. Since they're out, why not use them? And now I'm going to use some of that moonshine confetti. It's a lot like sequins without holes, but they don't have the faceted edge, which I really like. Anyway, I like the faceted edge. And they don't have as much of a deep cup. I'm just using some multimedia matte or glossy accent to glue them down. I don't want to have anything showing behind. And I'm using a picker up stick by Memory Box or Memory Keepers. On the front of the envelope, I'm just going to stamp some more of the birds using VersaFine. I think it just adds a nice little touch. This card is really simple, and I think you could do it with most of the papers. And again, just a little sprinkling of the the confetti mix adds a little bit of bling and a little bit of interest to what otherwise could be a pretty dull card. And there we go. Next up is card number 3. I like this card, but I struggled a little with it. So I wanted to use this great plaid paper, and I cut it so it was 5.5 inches by, I think, 4 inches. I wanted to make sure that it had a border with the yellow cardstock. I'm also going to use some black peel-offs from Lizzie shop. She's an English entrepreneur. Peel-offs are great. They let you add just a little bit of interest. They help hide seam lines, and they're so easy to use. Although you're going to see in a minute or so that I did really struggle when I was popping up my sentiment strip. So I'm just going to stamp hello, sending a summer hello. I do like that sentiment, and I loved how the summer is stacked and bigger. It's unique and it's fun. Again, I'm using VersaFine Onyx Black ink, and it didn't have a good impression, but it pulled up, the paper pulled up after I stamped. So I just restamped, and I'm going to restamp again to make sure again that I have a very deep black impression. Cleaning it up, putting it away, and here we go. Oh, and there I'm heat setting it for a minute off screen. I don't want it to smear or smudge. I'm going to trim it down so it fits exactly in the middle. And I'm going to use some 3M Scotch foam tape. This is nice, it's not too bulky, it's easy to use, it's pretty economical. And I wanted to save the Derice foam strips for a shaker card that I had planned. So this is where I'm going to struggle a little with the peel-offs. I wanted them to peek out a little, but not too much. They were crooked, so I keep playing with them and playing with them. You're going to see I get it eventually. These really aren't as hard to use as it looks like. It just takes a little bit getting used to. And these can be really stretchy, so make sure you don't stretch them out too much. If they're stretched out too much, they sort of lose their stick, which is actually why I usually like to bend over the seam or bend it over and hide it behind a piece of paper instead of cutting it off. This is a really cheerful card. Getting rid of those little extra pieces of peel off, and I am going to create a matching envelope. So I'm going to use some of the leftover paper from the sentiment strip and glue it to the bottom of the envelope. So it's just yellow and white polka dots. And I got a whole bunch of adhesive all over. So I'm trying to use an adhesive eraser, and then I'm trying to cover it up with the stuff that you use before embossing. And it's just going to sit there for the rest of the time. So next we're on to card 4. This is a fun card. So I'm going to actually use a piece of Ranger's very bright white, oh my goodness, watercolor paper. I'm going to use the Wave stamp, and I'm going to use a whole bunch of different distress inks. There are a bunch of blue ones. I'm going to start sort of in the middle with, I think, Peacock Feather, and I'm going to work down. I'm going to use Peacock Feather, Mermaid Lagoon, Broken China, Blueprint Sketch, Chipped Sapphire, Faded Jeans, and some tumbled glass. I'm going to try and go dark towards the bottom and light towards the top. Here you can see I didn't make you see all the stamping. I put it on a craft sheet, I sprayed it with water, I'm using a pick, and I'm just drying it with my heat tool. This causes the colors to blend, and it's really pretty in real life. Again, the bottom is much darker than the top, and that was on purpose. Cleaning it up, again, I want to make sure it's really dry. And we're going to use some rectangular die cuts from Hero Arts. I love these infinity dies. I think it's a great deal. You get so many options. So I'm going to tape that down with some washi tape and run it through my die cut machine. I really want to minimize the white border. So you can see that I cut it right over to the edge. And here we're just pulling back our Simon Says stamp thing and we're centering it. I'm playing with some vellum. I want to say beach please. And I'm not sure if I should have the vellum going down the middle or going side to side. In the end, I go side to side, and we're going to use some white embossing powder. This is the bright white opaque embossing powder from Hero Arts. This is my absolutely favorite embossing powder. And you can't see, but it does have some black specks in, not because it comes with black specks, but because I accidentally mixed some black powder in. Oops. So we heat set that, cut it, and we're going to wrap it around our little panel. I'm playing with it, seeing where I like it, and we're going to use some Scotch tape just to hold it down. We're going to adhere that using some foam tape, again from 3M. It's nice and strong. It can be repositionable when you first adhere it, but the longer it sticks there, the stronger it adheres. I wanted to make sure that this card, since it was so simple, had some interest. And finally, we're going to add in some of the moonshine confetti. I play with using a bikini, but I decide against it. I'm just going to drop some of the confetti on there. I have trouble placing it randomly, so I find that just dropping it is a little bit more random. You're going to see that there's actually more confetti on there than I'm actually going to adhere, and we're a little off screen. Oops. Again, I'm using glossy accents because it's clear, and I want to make sure that these moonshine confetti really are clear. You can see easily how sparkly and shiny they are, and I don't want anything to dull it down, which multi-matte adhesive can do. It is, after all, matte. And I'm not going to use that, so you can see it's sort of a spray upward from one side to the other. I was going to stamp on the envelope using the wave, but I decided against it. So on to card 5. This is probably my favorite card out of all of them. It's also the one where my camera died partway. So you're going to see that not everything is done on screen. So we're going to, and I did die cut most of this to begin with, just so that everything was nice and even and ready. I'm using my acetate sheet on the back of that Echo Park paper. And I'm going to use some 3M, no I'm not. I was going to use the 3M foam tape, but then I decided to use the Doris squares. It's why I'd saved them earlier. So I'm just laying them down, and I'm actually doing 2 at a time for the most part. If they're stuck together, they seem to retain their shape, and the backing doesn't come off as easily. Now I'm going to use single strips to go around some of, well, the bikini top and the bikini bottom. I'm going to end up using the moonshine confetti, which doesn't have very much bulk to it. It's pretty close to being a flat sequin, but of course it doesn't have a hole in it, so it's confetti, and it is a little bit cupped. I'm also going to use some diamond dust, which is actually ground up glass, and you're going to see that I actually use my hands to pinch that in, or put a few pinches in, which is not smartest, but I did stop the camera and go wash my hands immediately afterwards. I just didn't have anything to wash my hands with. So you can see I'm playing with, or fighting with, the little die cut pieces. I made sure that I saved the little bits that go between the bows to make sure that it gets all the dimension that it should. So I'm just laying in the pieces to make sure everything goes perfectly. And I squirted out a little bit of multi-matte adhesive on to one of those pieces of tape so I can just dip my pieces in and put them on. I didn't make you see me fighting with it, so now I'm playing with some vellum, and I'm going to end up stamping it with Versamark, sending a summer hello, and using the Bright White Hero Arts opaque embossing powder. It's really nice. It's very bright white. It has great coverage. And this is just such a fun card. So we have some excess, getting rid of that, putting away our embossing powder because otherwise we will tip it over. And again, you know, vellum heats up very quickly. It can scorch, so you go fast. Now I'm sort of regretting that I put on all that foam tape. I'm going to peel up the backing and put the vellum down, and then just put some glue on top of it to make sure that the whole thing sticks. On the other side, I'm going to put down some multi-matte adhesive and use a stamping block to push it down to make sure that it has good adhesion. Now I'm using my EK Success powder tool to get rid of any of the stickiness on the inside, and I'm going to add in our diamond dust and the confetti that I was talking about before. I don't remember what I was doing right there. I was playing with that for some reason. Yep, so there's the diamond dust. It's very sparkly. It doesn't add a lot of bulk, and I do want to get rid of it because I don't really like having ground glass in my craft room. Now I'm just using some washi tape to tape down my front panel because I don't want it to come up. I put down some multi-matte adhesive over where the vellum is, and I'm just peeling off all the tops for the foam tape. And now I'm crookedly laying down my panel. So you can see that it's all over to one edge. So what I'll end up doing off screen is trimming it. And I'm still thinking of putting it on a white panel so everything has a nice white border. So my camera died while it was charging. I cut out a bunch of little tickets and I ran it through my Xyron sticker maker. Now I'm going on the back of the envelope and just putting down some of these little tickets in a wonky row. They're very jaunty and just fun. Pressing it down with my bone folder, and actually here I cut a panel to go on the inside of the card, and I'm just going to use some of the leftover little sticker tickets to decorate the inside. And this card is just going to be adorable. Again, I love this card. Next, we're on to card number 6, another card that I love. So I pre-die cut a whole bunch of black bikinis and layered them 3 on top of each other, and I used my medium tip Nouveau glue pen. I am going to layer the first part of the bikini on top of one of them, and then I'm just going to skip because you don't need to watch me layering bikinis. This adds some nice dimension and a little bit of shadow. So here I have a scrap piece of paper, and I'm going to stamp bikinis are like fries. You can't have just one. I am going to use my VersaFine, and I'm going to emboss with clear embossing powder from Nouveau. This is going to add some shine and a little bit more dimension. It's also going to help match the bikinis. Just holding it with a reverse tweezers, and you're going to see in a minute that I'm going to play with my card. So I know that I want to have my card here, and I know that I want to have it sort of be a sign, but I'm not exactly sure where. I also know that I'm going to have 3 bikinis with it, because you can't have a saying, bikinis are like fries. You can't have just one with 1 bikini, and 2 is such an even number. So let's go an odd number. I'm using some adhesive runner. This is actually temporary adhesive or repositional adhesive, and I'm going to play with little strips. These were actually just cutaways from the scrap. And next, I'm going to use some more of the Derice foam strips. I figure since those little legs are so skinny, you might as well use the Derice foam strips like they're meant to be used. And I do want to pop up this sign, add a little bit more dimension, make sure that the 3-layer or actually 4-layer bikinis can actually go behind them. So here I'm just taking off the adhesive backing and I'm going to put it on to my polka dotted, summery, fun paper. I love how the polka dots are almost Z-ish because of how the colors are lined up. Now I'm just playing with these, and I'm going to use foam or tape runner on one of these and then go back to my Nouveau glue pen. I think it's just easier and a little bit less messy. When you look at these, you're going to see that the bottom bikinis are much bigger than or wider than our top bikinis. That's why I'm laying them down first and then putting the top bikinis on. This is really just such a fun card. So I'm putting my blocks on to make sure everything adheres well, and I'm going to use my last little ticket that I had from the previous card. I am adhering it to the yellow card base. This was the Sunshine card base that came in the kit. And on my envelope, I'm just going to use a bikini that I had cut out previously. I'm adhering it with my Nouveau glue pen, and it's going to be really simple and really cute. Love that. Next, on to card number 7. This is probably my least favorite card, although it is my absolute favorite paper. So I pre-cut this paper, and I made sure that I cut a base to go with it, or a banner to go with it, and I actually cut it a little bit too short. So you're going to see later on I fishtail it to make sure it all fits. I didn't make you see me fight with the jute cord, but it's really not a good bow. I'm using some 3M Ed foam adhesive to put my banner on, and I'm going to notice part way after I'd already adhered it that it's just a little bit too short. So you're going to see I take it off and I fishtail the ends. Okay, and to card number 8. So this is the wonderful, wonderful paper that has those flamingos. It's just so fun and colorful, and you can see that I cut a lot of bikinis from this paper because I like it so much. I'm going to use those cloud stamps and the Hero Arts Unicorn Pigment ink, and I'm going to stamp 3 or 4 or 5 times to make sure that I get really good coverage and that you can really see that white cloud. Yes. I see that a lot of people who are using these clouds are just shifting their paper, but I don't like how that looks. It's too patterny. So I'm actually going to, after stamping this a few times, I'm going to heat set it and then clean off my stamps and completely reposition them so that identical stamps aren't in the same spots. Just making sure they're completely clean and dry. And here I'm repositioning them. Again, things shifted because the stamps stuck to the paper. So we're going to stamp a whole bunch of times. I just thought this added a little bit of more interest. I love this paper, but my card idea was very simple and I needed something a little bit more. So we're going to use this great paper to create a bikini. I'm going to play with that. And then I'm deciding if I should stamp directly on it, if I should stamp on vellum, and I'm going to play with the different papers and figure out which one I'm actually going to stamp on. So I'm going to use that banner or leftover piece to stamp Time to Relax using my VersaFine ink. I'm going to cut it down and we're going to create a nice little fishtail with it. Again, I'm trimming off that sort of hairy edge that I have because I need to change my trimmer blade. And there, we're trimming it down. before we fishtail it. We are going to use some of the last pieces of the Doris foam tape. I don't think there are many left. And we're just going to adhere that on one edge. And we are going to use the Nouveau glue pen, or I'm going to use the Nouveau glue pen, to adhere the jaunty little bikini. Finally, we're going to add some of the moonstone confetti or moonshine confetti. Oops, we're going to adhere it to the card first, card base. This is the Audrey blue card base. I just love this color. It's so pretty. I'm hemming and hawing for a moment, but we are going to adhere the moonstone or moonshine confetti. We have our glossy accent, and we're just going to add some drops in. Again, there's a reason that I normally just drop the confetti on and then glue them where they appear. I don't like how it looks when I manually place them very much. We're using the quick stick. This makes it so easy to place them. And we're just putting away our confetti before we realize it's useless to do on camera. Next, we are on to card number 9. So there are examples that look a lot like this. I tried not to copy them, but I do like this design a lot. So I'm going to use some of the leftover paper and just adhere that to the top. I'm trimming off the edge, and I had cut out with a Simon Says stamp die this wavy edge from the great whitewashed wood paper. Now I'm using VersaFine to stamp Beach Please. This is just such a fun, relaxing type card. I'm heat setting it to make sure it doesn't smear, especially on whitish paper. I played with cutting out and using some of the Ferris wheels, but decided in the end not to. I also cut out a pair of glasses. Now I'm playing with which bikini I want to use. Do I want to use a patterned pair? Do I want to use different? I'm using my Nouveau adhesive to adhere down the glasses and the glue pen to adhere the bikini. And I'm going to get out my 3M foam tape and adhere my panel. I just want it to be popped up a little so it has a little bit of dimension, it has a little bit of interest. We want to make sure it's straight. Otherwise, you know, it's kind of weird, especially with wooden planks. It's nice to get those parallel. Finally, I'm going to use the VersaFine and those little birds. Just, again, adds a little bit more interest. Just using a baby wipe to clean them off. Finally, I am going to create an envelope. So the other half of the wooden paper, I'm going to actually use that with my envelope, and you don't see me make it, but I adhered it down on the edge of the paper. Finally, I'm going to use the little Inkers die set to cut apart my favorite paper. Now, I don't like how this card turned out, but I do like the idea of how it turned out. So I wanted to make a shaker card using this great paper. I wanted to use bikinis, and I wanted to have them suspended, but I also wanted to have them sort of able to shake around. So I've adhered some acetate to the inside of my shaker window, and I'm going to use VersaFine and Versamark and black embossing powder. I was pretty sure this was going to be a mistake, but I thought, well, it's acetate. I use plenty of the anti-static powder tool, and nope, it's going to be a big problem. So I'm going to actually not only use paintbrushes to remove some of this, but I'm going to use some of the anti-static or the duster claws, the Swiffer duster claws. It works really well to get the embossing powder off and to clean just a little dust off things. Heat embossing that. There's still going to be some pieces of leftover embossing powder around it, but it's not too bad. It's not like it was. Now at this point I've used up my Derice foam strips, so I'm going to use 3M foam strip. I'm going to layer those around, and normally I would double it over, but I want to have my nylon thread sandwiched very evenly between the pieces of foam tape to make sure that the nylon thread does not go anywhere. Off screen, just cutting it down. I'm cutting it in thirds. Okay, so here's our nylon thread, and we're going to use just some regular Scotch tape to adhere the bikinis to the nylon thread. So I went through all this trouble to make sure everything was flipped right. I tried so hard to get everything to line up right, and in the end, once everything's glued down and my shaker stuck down, I'm going to notice that one of my bikinis, that bikini, got flipped. And there are some other problems too. But it is a pretty cute card. So I just want the bikinis to be able to move a little bit. Now I'm playing with some of the others that I have cut out that I haven't used. Again, I'm adhering this with just regular Scotch tape and putting it down. Finally, I'm going to end up layering up some more foam tape. Again, I want this to be nice and thick. I want everything to be able to easily move, and I want those nylon strings to stay stuck. Okay, so I'm just figuring out which bikinis I want to put in the middle, and also figuring out which pieces of, here I'm going to be using the anti-static powder tool. I'm putting in some bikinis that I want to make sure can move around. I'm using the rest of the moonshine confetti, and I'm using some glossy accents just to glue down some of the confetti so that they'll stick to each other. At this point, I wish I had turned the camera off and just stepped away and let them glue, or let the glue dry. Because the glue wasn't completely dry and then I shook it, things ended up sticking together, and now the shaker isn't very shakery. So you live and learn. But I do like gluing down the sequins, the confetti, just because then when the card is upright, you can still see them. They're not all sunk to the bottom, so it's still interesting. And it also causes the confetti to sort of get stuck on each other. Just peeling off the foam tape, and I'm going to lay that down. I'm going to try very hard to make sure everything's lined up perfectly. I didn't use the dies perfectly, but things worked out. So for the envelope, I am just going to use 2 of the leftover bikinis. And on the back, I'm actually going to end up, oh, here I'm playing with it again. And I ended up stamping Time to Relax. So our first card, these are our cards. We're just looking at all of them together. At the end, I'll show you what materials I had left over. And finally, I will give you close-ups of all the cards. Thank you guys for listening. I hope that you have a great day. It was so much fun to create these cards and play with this kit. I hope that you enjoy. I like decorating some of the envelopes to go with them, although I don't do all of them. It just adds a little bit of nice interest, and it makes sure that there is an envelope that matches the card. Again, I'm having trouble with that because I did not let the glue dry. So we have the stamp set and the bikini die. We have a few pieces of patterned paper left. We have 3 card bases. I didn't use the doll pink at all, and I didn't use one of the Audrey blue. We have some scraps of paper. We have a bunch of paper bikinis that I cut. And here we go with our card bases, or sorry, our cards. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing to my channel. And again, thank you guys for listening. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I hope this gave you some inspiration. And I really do hope that you have a great day.